Hi, it's Justin Shore from Chronicles of EMS with yet another 60-second life-saving tip. Today, learn CPR with a friend. You never know when they'll need it. Forget game night. Forget Tupperware parties. Have a CPR night. Have a CPR party. Contact your local CPR instructors through the AHA. Get them over. Get your friends together. Learn CPR. It's a skill every citizen should have, not just rescuers. So grab the kids' sports roster. Grab your mother's club. Grab your friends. Get them together. Learn CPR, both adult and infant. It's good that you know it, but what if something happens to you? You want your family to know it as well. And also keep in mind that the American Heart Association now recommends 100 compressions per minute when giving CPR. And this can easily be remembered by humming the tune to the Bee Gees, Staying Alive. Until next time, this is Justin Shore with another 60-second life-saving tip. Chronicles of EMS, a seat at the table. Today we're going to be talking about social media, blogging. That's kind of how we all met, really.
Yeah.
Here at the table today, Justin Shore.
Mark Glencourse.
Natalie Quibido.
Chris Kaiser.
Sam Bradley.
Wonderful. And I think it is safe to say that we all met because of social media. Mm-hmm. And now here we are actually in person talking about what we do. Sam, you're new to the table. How did you get involved in social media?
I got my first iPod in 2005 and learned about what a podcast was. There wasn't a whole lot of EMS offerings at the time, so I started to listen to audiobooks and writing, because I do a lot of writing podcasts, and then learned about Facebook and MySpace and eventually Twitter. And it was through Twitter, I think more of us got to know each other on Twitter because one leads to another, leads to another. And then I found out about this, the Level Zero movie, and found out it was, Ted was from the county that I started working at when I moved up here to Northern California, and was very intrigued with that. And then, of course, became very intrigued with his work, and so we met, and I think because of Ted, I eventually got to know all the rest of you. I think that's how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that kind of happens the way you can very easily follow people that seem interesting on all these different sites. Some a little too interesting or too interested in following us. How do you decide who's going to be your friend in this new?
Just brave
I
new
look at
world.
their profile.
Yeah.
If he were to retweet somebody, like I picked up a few people from Mark from England, and if they're an EMS person and they seem interested, then I follow them. See what?
It's easy enough to stop following
Exactly.
if it's not what you like.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone has something unique. You know, I started following these people, and everyone has a different view, and I love that. That's the great thing about social media. I can follow a paramedic from Canada, or I can follow a filmmaker from California, and they all have something different to bring to the table, and that's why it's so great.
And it really is a way for our profession to break down the walls.
Absolutely.
And really talk provider to provider. And
There are no more little kingdoms anymore. The little kingdoms are being infiltrated by the masses.
The little kingdoms still exist, but certain people from the little kingdoms can just speak to the other little kingdoms.
That's true.
And that's, we're not at the point where the establishments are breaking down and opening up fully, but
we will.
the communication streams are there now, which some services find very threatening.
Oh, yeah.
It's not for everybody yet.
but others have embraced it. Some public information officers here in the United States are very active in social media. They've got Twitter feeds. I follow a couple just here in the Bay Area that I hear about fires where I work before I hear about it in the firehouse because it comes up on Twitter. And it's a great resource. My service hasn't implemented it themselves yet. This is a private citizen who has taken it upon themselves to put out this information. But some departments really are embracing it.
Which one's that?
Emergency_SF.
Oh, because that's just someone private.
It's just someone private. Yeah.
Actually, I've heard about fires in San Francisco and sent you a text message and say, "Hey, you okay?" Because I've heard there's a big one.
Yeah.
You get knocked on the head again, did you?
And not only communicating, but we're also getting news fast from people on the ground.
Well, look about Haiti. First information on Haiti came through Twitter, because that was their only means of getting information out. That was pretty astounding.
Yeah, and then having that network there of people paying attention to get that information to other people and really get the ball rolling on that. But can this be a good thing for our industry, or will this possibly be abused to the point where it's not useful for us.
If used correctly.
Called responsibility.
Right.
But the problem is the huge minority who use it incorrectly. It can just be, you could have 10, 20, 30 people in one service blogging, tweeting, using Facebook and everything, and sharing ideas and building communities, and that's all fab. But then you have one person who does something that everyone looks at and goes, whoa, they shouldn't be doing that. But then the employers say, it's a knee-jerk reaction, it happened in my service. Right, close down all access to Facebook from stations, close down all access to here, no one's allowed to do it now. And it's how you get over that hurdle, which I don't know if you ever can, unless the employers and the services embrace it themselves.
I was on the Firefighter Netcast podcast in the industry a few days ago, actually speaking on somewhat of the same topics. And the opinion I came out with is that this is coming, and it's coming like a freight train towards some agencies, and it's being embraced by others. The strategy is to get out in front of it and to say, here's what our policies are. They're not restrictive. They're fair. We're going to be at the forefront of this because it's coming whether we want it or not. And we're going to make it to be a good thing as opposed to letting a small vocal minority make it a bad thing. And if they embrace it, they get ahead of the curve. It has a lot of positive benefit for the industry as opposed to being the old-fashioned trolls in the chat room. If you can say that internet chat's old-fashioned these days.
Yeah. Well, speaking of internet chat, here at the table in the studio, we have a laptop open with our chat room open. We're taking questions from the group and not only talking about social media, but we're using it. Here's people logging in to a chat room to listen to a show about logging into chat rooms.
And they're at the table here.
And if we keep doing that enough, the universe will implode upon itself, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a duty.
Yeah. But when we talked about, when we talked about people abusing social media, when I go to work, it used to be everybody would sit and play cards. Then everybody sat and watched TV. Now everybody's in a different corner with a laptop. Is the social media helping? Is it helping us grow as a group in one manner, but yet alienating us from our co-responders who maybe aren't our friends on Twitter when we're sitting in the corner on the laptop?
Interesting point.
It's a distinct possibility. And my wife and I both tweet, and there's times where we've been sitting on the couch actually having a conversation on Facebook and Twitter simultaneously, both using both services.
But not speaking.
Not really speaking much. Although she'll get tired of me if we speak too much.
That's
but,
very strange, Chris.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I still think it's a good idea.
But at the same time, you have someone might see you in the corner with a laptop, like, hey, Natalie, what are you doing? Come check this person out. Like, come read Happy's blog. Listen, this is more Glencore's. He works in the UK. Read his stuff. This is how, you can also use that to introduce people who aren't exactly in the know,
Well, that's where you really learn more about people. Like you were saying, how do you choose who your friends are? If they're a blogger and a writer, which most of us are, all of us are, how do they think? What do they think? What is their focus? What is their platform? And that's when you really get to be interested in them as people. You're going to have people that are Twitter friends and they kind of come and go, but it's the ones that are bloggers that you really read their stuff and you engage, or you do their podcasts with them that,
So I'm just going to say one thing. Some PC is a gentleman who's in our chat room. There's a UK policeman who's asked some really good questions, and we'll get to them later, just so he doesn't think we're ignoring him.
Okay.
But going on from what you just said there, what I was going to ask is, you've said, some people take the step into blogging, move into, and it's putting yourself out there completely. Unfortunately, you're still putting yourself at risk, your job at risk, your family at risk, your employment. But it's a choice that we make to do, and I would be interested to find out why each of us made that decision. Because at the minute we are putting ourselves at risk by being bloggers. We're minimising the risk because we're following standards which we impose on ourselves, really. But why did we put ourselves up there? Why did we put ourselves out there and risk it?
Well, I've been a paramedic for over 10 years now, and I work in an area where it's hard to keep paramedics because the pay is so low, and the working conditions aren't the best. And in rural areas, that's some of the same challenges they've all had in the rural areas. I started blogging because I had to do something to help fix EMS and help move it forward into the profession I know it could be. And I have to do something as a paramedic who loves EMS and who is proud of my profession. I have to be a part to change it and affect positive change. I started blogging because I thought, hey, maybe I can get a couple people to read it. I had no idea I'd be sitting here at this table when I started blogging.
I don't think any of us knew what it would open up for us.
Yeah.
You know,
It shows that there's a huge market out there. It shows that there are people that have the same passion for it, that are willing and hungry for more information and for the positive change that it can bring. And that's powerful.
but even though we are all bloggers and we all have a common goal now with the Chronicles and EMS 2.0 and such like, even from what you said shows that me and you personally, you came into blogging for a want to change things for the better, whereas I came into blogging because I just wanted to shout about what was good. But it doesn't matter how we start, we come to this commonality of trying to move things forward. And I think we differed as well because you were anonymous originally, where I from the get-go I waited for permission to do it without being anonymous. So and part of that was me agreeing and telling my employers that this is not going to be a negative blog. You know, there are things that I might disagree with, but that's not for the blog. This is about my personal experience and the way I feel and love my job. Whereas if you come at it from the different viewpoint of you would like to see change, it's a lot harder to stand up as yourself from the get-go and say this is not right and this is what I want to change.
And
That's a whole different argument about anonymous blogging over not.
But Dr. Wesley here.
That was
Yeah.
a fantastic podcast.
Well, I
Yeah.
come from a long time ago. I'm dating myself here, but I became certified as a medic in 1981. And back there, any changes in EMS, quit grinning, Chris.
I'm not going to say how old I was, Mom. It's okay.
Yeah. All changes came from the top down. And of course, I think all of us are people that never want to do just the minimum. We want to do more, we want to invest more, we want to help create things. And so we take these ideas to our employers and go, what about this? And they'd say, yes, that's nice, and pat us on the head, and we'll get back to you. And that's as far as you could ever go. There was no other resource. And when I started seeing what you guys are doing and started seeing this community develop around all of these people with good ideas that want to take these good ideas, this is your true version of ground roots. These are people in the field. These are boots on the ground folks with these good ideas that are now sharing these ideas among ourselves, and they're getting noticed. I saw that last night. Getting noticed by other people that may have some influence in the industry. And when those people start giving those ideas out and supporting those ideas, now company owners and, I mean, it's moving from the ground up for a change. And we're actually having an opportunity to affect change through the blogs, through this kind of thing, through Chronicles. It's just, that's what I see that I never had when I was in the field, that you guys can now grab and run with.
And I hate to jump in, I hate to monopolize the conversation, but I saw Medic Bella on the chat room there said she had somebody who was completely new to the Chronicles of EMS, completely new, sitting with her, listening to this audio stream. And she wanted to announce that there was somebody new listening to it. And thank you, because that's what we all have to do. We all have to go to our individual services and get our colleagues and our friends and bring more eyes to the medium so we can get more people involved in the conversation, so they can share their ideas, they can share their thoughts, experiences, emotion. And the more people we bring in, the more people we get energized and give them the feeling that, hey, things are going to get better, the faster things are going to get better.
And my students are getting this. And I was really amazed. Here's something that'll raise you. I was always assuming social media was a younger person's thing. And I have 120 students. I had 60 in one class. And I said, okay, how many of you are on Twitter? One 45-year-old woman raised her hand. I went, what? I expected the whole room. It really isn't. I mean, I was really surprised by that. So I'm educating them. What else is out there? Have you ever heard of EMS Educast? Have you ever heard of all of these good EMS programs? These people are taking their own time and energy to put out this good material for people. And it's far more than we can do in a classroom. Take advantage of these things, This tells them what the world is that they're getting into. I want them to know that. I want them to get excited by it.
That's something that we, new students, new hires, I'll be like, hey, here's a list of things that you can do to make you a better medic. Like, here's EMS Garage, here's EMS Educast, Level 0, Chronicles of EMS. Like, we have such a great medium now compared to just a couple years ago when I was a medic student. I didn't have that. I didn't have anywhere to turn. And that's why I started social media. I'm the youngest person at my company. I'm 23 years old. Everyone else is in their 30s and 40s. And they...
Really old.
Well,
I wasn't going to be the one that said that.
older than I am. So I had no one to reach out to. Like, no one was as passionate as I was. And I knew I wasn't alone. There has to be someone in EMS that's just as passionate as I am, because it's still going. If there was no passion in EMS, it wouldn't be like it is. I joined social media, and there was this group of people, and it gave me a voice, and I think it's amazing. That's how often do you get to do that?
True.
Yeah. And it was just mentioned in the chat room that social media starts as fun. The first time you fire up Twitter and you send something off and someone retweets something you said, you feel like $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
And it starts as fun, and then you start to realize, well, what if I tweet about something that could help people?
Mm-hmm.
And then more people retweet it, and you realize, well, I was just a teacher. And that just worked. And you realize the power that, sure, you can post funny videos on Facebook, and one of my most popular posts on my blog was when I linked to someone else's cartoon. And it was funny, and everybody loved it. But in so much as social media can be fun and entertaining, we can also use that media for good, as we've seen.